have the Bachelorette herself to react to all the things that have happened, and oh, has there been a lot. Welcome to Playing the Field. I'm your host, Ryan Field, joined now by our panel of experts, as always, Jen Tran from ABC here in New York City, and Gina Sirico from our sister station, KABC, out there in sunny Los Angeles. 25 men we started with 5 episodes ago, ladies. We are down to 7. This season is flying by. Jen is getting rid of guys left and right. And I'm cool with the 7 that are left. Are you cool with the 7 that are left?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a little different than I expected due to Austin leaving. I thought he was a contender to stay in a little bit longer. But, here we are. And I like the group that's left.
I do too, Gina.
I do too. I mean, for the most part.
well, there's one.
There's one who I'm not the most fond of, but yes,
Sam,
these are the guys that she is the most. I'm gonna just ignore. These are the guys that she is the most connected to. So I'm happy that she is finding that.
We have to go back to where we left off last week with the cliffhanger. Matthew.
Matthew, what are you doing?
Matthew is back, paid his way to New Zealand, and flew himself there and didn't even have time to freshen up and was thrust right into this episode. And here's the one thing I was disappointed with. I love that he came back, fighting for his love. Maybe he realized the fact that, like he said, that, listen, you're about to get engaged. This is the finale. This is it. This is now or never for me. And he expressed how he felt about her. The one thing I didn't like, though, Jen and Gina, was that they didn't show the actual conversation of Jen telling him that, listen, this just isn't going to work out. You're just left to assume what happened, and obviously what he told the guys, that she told him that he had to leave. But I would have liked to hear what she said, especially this is someone that she has a lot of history with, and I felt like they did us a disservice by not including that conversation.
We need closure, too.
Yes, we do. That's a great point, Gina. We also need closure.
Yes, but I do feel like just putting my producer hat on, not knowing what it was, like when he walked into that room, everyone went, oh, wait a minute. Because we all did the same thing.
Yeah.
So
Sure.
That's what it was there for.
Yeah, that was a great moment on the season. And you know what? I got to give the guy props, because if she let me go, I would not have gone in and faced those guys.
I was wondering that. Like, what did they have to say to this
I would
guy to
not,
walk in
yeah,
there?
and be like, yo, I'm part of the past, and clearly her husband's in this room, and wish you guys the best of luck. And then Sam's like, boy, you better stay in the past, or whatever the hell he said. It's like, man, I was
rude.
Oh, dude.
Like, he's already, like, hat in hand. I'm so
Yeah,
sorry,
this
gentlemen.
guy just looks so nice, pouring his heart out in front of these 11 random dudes at the moment. And boy, you better get back in the past, or whatever the hell Sam said. Was not feeling that.
And that's why I have the feelings that I do about Sam. You know what's happening. You know he's leaving. Just show some not compassion, but just be mature.
Yes.
And don't be like, yeah, you need to, I'm glad, we got good dudes, and I'm going to stay, I'm glad you're going to stay in the past, my boy. I think that's what he said. And it's just like, yeah, all right. You're the alpha. We get it.
We get it. I would have loved to have seen him stick around for the rose ceremony, and then we finally did have the rose ceremony, and we lost Thomas and John, and I was so happy to see Thomas go.
Yeah.
I was over Thomas and his shenanigans.
He had
His
glassy eyes
whispering.
again.
Yeah, the guy was drunk again. I mean, it was
Or sad.
Did you
or both.
notice the first person that he hugged was Sam?
Yeah.
Was it?
That's a good point. A very astute observation, Gina.
You are so observant.
Yeah.
I try.
Well, listen, those two were all buddied up, thick
They
as
were.
thieves, in cahoots, whatever you want to say, the whole season. So good that he's gone. And
His exit was nice, though. He did say,
Yeah.
he had a classy exit.
you know what?
as he
That's a good
left.
point.
So, because I wasn't sure. I was like, is he going
Yes.
to throw someone under the bus on his way out and whisper don't pick this guy?
Yeah,
But
you're right.
He didn't. He was just like, your husband's in this room or out here or whatever.
I do have to give him credit. And as a guy, if I'm going out, I'm going out gracefully, Gina, the way that Thomas did. And I thought he saved face there a little bit at the end.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think he did as well. I was like Jen, and you guys, I was surprised, because I think if anybody was going to throw another little bomb, it would have been him.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Agreed.
I mean, good for Thomas for kind of, ending on a high note.
He ended on a high note, and we finally got to see her and Jonathan have a little one-on-one time. And I don't know how I feel about their connection. I just feel like when you see her with Sam or when you see her with Devin or you see her with Marcus, I just feel like, I don't know, it felt a little forced to me, her date with Jonathan. How did you feel about it, Jen?
I felt the same as you. Like, I mean, they're very playful together. They have a lot of fun.
Yeah,
I mean,
where are you in the vineyard?
Yeah.
You know, they were like
but then I'm like,
hide and go seek
on.
and stuff.
Like, if I'm finally getting one-on-one time with a guy I've been waiting to see, I mean, yeah, you have some fun, but like, I felt like it took a while for them to get to know each other better, and I didn't feel like they have that steamy connection that she has with the others.
I would agree. Gina?
I mean, it's kind of hearkening back to last season. Think about how we all kind of felt it when Joey was with Rachel. Nobody saw the, oh my God, this is the great connection, but they did have something. You know what I mean? So it's kind of, we're kind of in that mode. But I do love Jonathan, and if he does not make it to the end, Jonathan for Bachelor?
Or Jonathan and Rachel? What? They would be cute.
Well, I think
would be cute, actually.
That would be so cute.
I think both of you said earlier in this season we would love to see a scene out of The Notebook, and then we had them making out in the rain. It was just, it wasn't a rom-com like he wanted, but it was a very passionate moment, and I love how they set it up where the rain was just raining right over them.
I was like, that was fake rain.
It was definite fake rain. It was dry in the background, but the rain was pouring down on them. I will say it was a good kiss. So maybe there was a little more chemistry there at the end. But when they were in the hot tub and all this stuff, I just didn't feel like that connection.
It felt like, okay, well, we're here and we're in the hot tub, and now we have to do this.
Let's
like,
talk
just
about
go.
something.
Yeah. And then we make out. Because that's what happens.
Is that how it happens?
That's how it happens on this show.
Oh, on the show. Okay.
Not in real. Well, I don't know.
Listen, you are married. We're not sure how you got there. Maybe that's how it played out for you.
No.
Wow.
Fake out in the rain.
Brian?
I don't have fake rain.
After an awkward conversation in the hot tub, and then you're like, let's get married. Maybe that's how it went.
It was so easy. That's all I had to say.
How could he say no?
Aw.
So then they get to the group date. So he gets a rose, Jonathan. They get to the group date, and Austin says, I got to get out of here. And I had to laugh out loud because when he walks out, all of a sudden he's walking up a hill. I'm like, where's he going? There was no car there for Austin. Austin's walking into the New Zealand wilderness. Rumor has it he was never seen again. And that's something that needs to be figured out here on this show. Is he still lost in New Zealand? I kid, because he did finally end up in the car. But normally the car is right there waiting for them. And he was walking up the hill. But the whole thing, Jen, was...
They had to see that part coming, right? Because, I mean, he was having all the doubts. And he kept saying when other people were getting one-on-one dates, and he's like, oh, it's too far behind. I'm too far behind. And I wasn't entirely surprised that he decided to leave after that.
But you thought that maybe he should have stuck around a little bit more?
I do, because he didn't have a chance. Like, maybe he would have gotten the next one-on-one. Maybe he would have had special time with her that evening. Like, maybe he needed to make more of his own opportunities, like Devin did. I don't know. But I guess if he didn't try, then that's what you get.
He was definitely shy, Gina, and you've seen more episodes of this franchise than anyone. But I also think he read the room and said, I'm so far behind these guys, I can't possibly play catch up at this point. And I think that's how I would look at it. Now, listen, I would have been much more forthcoming than he was if I was on the show. But if I was in his position, Gina, I'm looking at this saying, okay, all these guys are so much further ahead. There's no way I can make up this much ground.
No, I agree. And I feel like, good for him he said it. I think it's unfair to the guys that are here and unfair to you. Like, if the connection's not there and we're not getting that time, then I want you to go forth and fall in love with who you're going to fall in love with. So I think there's something a little admirable about it. I also like the fact that he did not pull an Aaron and throw people under the bus as he was leaving and walking off into the wilderness. But note that, if you watch during that group date, Rose, everybody was getting mad at Devin for making time with Jen, or for getting time with Jen. Well, he made that happen. He pulled her aside. He would go to her. If Austin wasn't doing that, then then he kind of has no one to blame but himself on this, and that's kind of the whole point of this. And I think if we bring it back, that's kind of Devin's whole point. If you're not making time,
right, that's on you.
And taking those moments, that's not on me. That's on you. I'm doing what I got to do. You do what you got to do. If they're not doing enough, then that's not on anybody else but themselves. And maybe Austin knew that too. I don't know.
Can we rewind a second to the farming and how bad they all were at it? Oh my gosh.
Not surprising. I mean, they all dressed the part, but I said, there's no way this is good. And they couldn't find which gate to send the sheep out of.
Any gate at that point.
And it was the one gate right behind them.
The freeze frames of them stopping and putting arrows to the gate right in front of them as Sam's going, I don't know, what gate are we supposed to do? Well, Mr. Macho Man, turn right around and maybe you'll see it.
And then the farmer's like, if they had just opened the gate, all the sheep would have ran right through and this whole thing would have been over.
Exactly.
Like, this should have been easy.
This should have been way easier than it was.
Richard and Diane, crap talking the guys.
Yeah, that was great.
Not having the intelligence to open the gate was chef's kiss.
When I first saw Richard and Diane, I didn't think they had it in them, but they certainly surprised.
They
all
delivered.
Of us. They understood the assignment, as the kids like to say. We should point out too. We teased this at the top. Gina mentioned The Bachelorette. We are going to have Jenn Tran on to react to what we've seen through these 5 episodes. Gina has a nice one-on-one with The Bachelorette. That's coming up here in just a few. A little teaser, something to look forward to. Now, Jenn did not hand out a group rose date. A group date rose, which I think that's the first time this season that has happened, that she has not handed out the group date rose. So then that sets the stage for Grant's one-on-one. And remember, hearkening back to the first episode, she thought he was hot. And I think she said hot 3 times in a row. I think that was the word she used.
Very cute. Very, very cute.
So much like her attraction to Sam, she has an attraction to Grant. And I think we saw that on her date, Gina. Or Jen, I should say. Sorry.
Me? Oh, yeah. I thought that she likes the way he looks. She likes the way he looks at her. He surprised me that he's very sensitive to her.
Yes.
Right off the bat, he asked her, "So how are you? I understand, you didn't have the greatest group date the other night. How are you dealing with that?" And I thought that was so nice. I really did like that he thought of that.
Gina, it was a great approach.
Yeah, absolutely. He is, he's astute to her feelings. And I think that sets him apart. We've talked about it before. I think he's on that Jeremy front where he is kind of like the man in the room. He's mature. His maturity level is kind of different than some of the others.
And I have to laugh because he delivered my favorite line of the season. Damn, you look good on that horse, girl. I laughed out loud.
It was good. It was good.
That was the line of the season for me.
Delivering compliments.
Yes, he is.
I mean, ones she probably hasn't heard before.
I guarantee she's never heard, damn, you look good on that horse, girl. But that is exactly what she heard. It was, well timed, the whole thing. Good. The whole thing was just perfect. And then they have this bond, Jen, over dinner about the history of substance abuse with his father. And she talks about some of the issues she's had with her family. And that just kind of took their connection, I thought, to another level.
It did. I mean, I still wonder if it's as strong as it is with some of the other men like Marcus or Devin. But I do think they grew their particular relationship and moved it forward in that moment. And, props to him. He's had a rough go of it with his family. Yes. And it sounds like he's just steady and he's there for people and a good guy.
And he got the rose, Gina. Is he a contender here to win this whole thing, do you think, based on what you've seen?
Could be. I mean, if he's not winning, if he doesn't end up to engage to her at the end, I do feel like maybe he is Bachelor potential.
Could be.
He's handsome.
I
very likable.
He's
Notice
likable.
the different approaches Jen and I take there. He's handsome. He's very likable.
Both.
He is very handsome, but he is also very likable. I do like the fact, as we've talked about before, is he really is attuned to her feelings and her needs. And I like that. And I think that would be like, he'd be a strong contender for The Bachelor.
My first impression of him was completely wrong, by the way.
Same.
Night one, I thought he was kind of cocky and just like, I was like, oh, here's the villain. And so far, that is not true. That is not the case at all.
Not the least bit, yeah.
So we'll see.
You know, we had that too about Jeremy, where we were like, oh, God.
Yes.
But in the first night, but he really changed my mind. Like he and Grant both are like this mature, like they are the adults in the room.
Who knew?
Well, one thing I didn't like, to build on that point, and it involves Grant, and I want to get your thoughts on this because, as we said, you two are our Bachelor experts and can certainly remember all the way back to season 1, episode 1.
Ooh.
Your library and memory is much better than mine.
You didn't let me study
Let's
before
not get
this.
Crazy.
So Grant, they sit there, they get ready for the rose ceremony. Grant comes in and he's like, "Yo, I'm falling in love with her."
Yes.
And we've seen this. And I've noticed it more throughout this season that when they get in these group settings, the guys feel the need to like dish on their feelings for her. And I want to know from you two, is that something that's producer driven? Why are they doing that? Because if I'm them, I'm not sitting there saying, "Yo guys, this is how I feel about my girl."
Yeah.
If we're all fighting for the same girl, like I want to have those thoughts to myself. I'm not just unloading it in a group setting. So I'm wondering, is that like show driven? Is that something these guys are really trying to put out there?
I think they get a false sense of security among each other, kind of like buddies, and they kind of forget here and there that they're actually competing for the same girl, you know? I think they see each other as friends. Who else do they have to talk to while they're there? Just each other.
Well, yeah, it was like when Grant was confiding with Jonathan, or the other way around, Gina. So they're almost like giving each other advice. I don't know. That whole dynamic to me is just very weird.
Yeah, it's interesting. But again, to Jen's point, you know, they really don't, it's not like they can make calls, text their friends, do any of that. They are basically cut off, you know, from the outside world, essentially. So really, they do only have themselves. It always is interesting when they bring stuff up like this. And I wonder, you know, like what the reaction is going to be. Like, I think that having Grant say that, I would have expected, you know, some sort of not great reaction from Sam. But I do feel like Sam's really focused on Devin.
Yeah.
But this is one of those moments where it's like, okay, why isn't he going after, Grant for saying this and professing his love and doing all of that? You have to wonder, like, what that's all about.
Well, I think Sam thinks he could kick Devin's ass, but I don't think he thinks he could kick Grant's ass, is what I think it is.
I think you might be right.
I think he's very careful about who he's picking a fight with. We also should point out that there was really no drama at all between Sam and Devin on this episode. Maybe when they were farming, Sam made one comment about, Devin sneaking off and having like that little private conversation with her, but there was no fireworks. It was kind of a drama-free episode.
Yeah, we didn't get a whole lot out of that. And I will say, for Devin stealing that moment, he picked the right time to do it when they were scooping poop.
Absolutely. And Gina, it reminded me when Jenn stole that moment with Joey last season, when she just ran up and kissed him while he was waiting to do the interview, which was also like an outdoor group date. I forget what they were doing in that moment, but it's like you got to make that time when you can.
Yeah.
I think they were in Jasper.
Yes, they were in Jasper.
Which prayers out to Jasper, by the way. I hope everything kind of, all of that. They've had some bad fires going on there. So just praying for all of them. But I do feel like, and Jenn did it too. If you remember, I forget what group date it was but she pulled him out and was teaching Joey how to play piano.
Yes.
In front of everybody.
See what I mean about the Bachelor library? I can't remember what I had for dinner last night, and you two are just whipping out information from episodes.
But that was only that was only last season, so give us a moment, give me that. But I do feel like, I will say, out of all, the episodes so far, this is the one where I've hated Sam the least.
Yeah.
He was good with her, like the things that they were saying to her in the group date, like after Austin left, and after even when Matt left, I do feel like this is the Sam I think that everybody has wanted to see.
Yep.
And he's given us he only gave us that little glimpse. So, I mean, thanks.
Well, the rose ceremony happened. Dylan gets eliminated. So now we're down to 7. And before we get to that trailer of what's to come for the rest of the season, Gina, I want you to talk about your interview with Jenn, which is something that we're all very excited to hear.
Oh, well, Jenn was out here in LA, and I got to chat with her a little bit about just kind of the things that happened in this episode, the guys leaving and Matt, the whole Matt situation. So let's have a look.
All right, girl, let's get into it.
Let's do it.
All right. So first off, we were all pretty shocked when we saw Matt come back. Take us into that moment, and just when you turned around and you saw him, what was your reaction?
Yeah, it was actually pretty crazy. I was just filming for just like some scenic shots and things like that, which is like what we do all the time when we get to a new location. And so I wasn't thinking of anything. I was just like, okay, I'm just going to sit here and we're filming and whatever. And so when I turned around, because I heard someone coming, I turned around and I saw him. I was honestly like, oh, this is like a friendly face. Like, wow, what is he doing here? And in my head, I was like, is he here to give me advice? Like, what is he doing? And I was like, no, he's not here to give me advice. That would be really weird. So I was very, very shocked. And also, like, we were in New Zealand. We weren't in like Seattle or Kansas or whatever. Like, we were in New Zealand. So I was like, I just don't even understand how you're here right now. Like, I think I said 10,000 times, I was like, how are you here? Like, what are you doing? So I was just shocked to see him, honestly.
And then when he said he wanted to come back, and then and professed his love and all of that, you had reiterated a couple times during that part that you guys were just friends.
Yeah.
So was he just never, like, did he never get that memo, or was he? I wasn't unclear. And then, but your decision,
right,
to have him stay or go,
yeah,
that all kind of fell into it. So talk to us through that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we officially dated like 3 years ago. We had like a very short relationship, and we were both very young at the time. And we had reconnected like over the years, just like here and there, getting dinner and seeing each other, because he lives in Boston and my family lives there. So we've seen each other here and there. And in the past few months after Joey's season ended, like, we had been talking just like a lot over the phone and here and there. But in my head, I never really saw anything more there, just because we lived in different places and we knew each other. So it was like a friendly thing for me, and I was still seeing other people. So yeah, I was really shocked to hear how he felt about me still. And so I had no idea. And I think I just needed a little bit of time to kind of process the fact that he had come all the way to New Zealand to say this to me, and just kind of process it all. And so I wanted to take that time, and before the rose ceremony that night, I felt like I just knew that my heart was so invested in a lot of the men there already, and I knew where I was at with them. And I like to keep the past in the past, and I didn't feel like there was a need to reopen that door. And so I sent him home. Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
It's so funny. When I'm watching, I always think about putting myself in your position, and it's like, wait a minute. And I probably would have done the same thing, because there's a reason why you're in the past.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I just felt bad in the moment that he had made this grand gesture and he flew all the way there. And I wanted to be fair to my decision making and not to do anything too rash. And I just needed to, it was a lot for him to do that. So.
Absolutely. Talk about the guy's reaction, because I can't,
Yeah, I immediately thought about the guys too, because, I had been so invested in them at that point. And I mean, I can only imagine how jarring it is to have somebody's exes come back into somebody's life, that you're dating's life. And so, yeah, I mean, I can imagine that there were so many emotions going through it for them.
Yeah. So we had a rose ceremony. Rose ceremony number 1.
Yes.
We saw Thomas and John go.
Yeah.
I will say I had a little bit of high hope for Thomas, but then as I saw things go, I was like, bro, you're killing me.
Yeah.
I mean, just talk about those two men and just your feelings about having to let them go.
Yeah, it definitely, at this point, I think it starts getting tougher because you spend so much more time with them and you really get to know them. And I think with Thomas, it's just unfortunate that we just never got to progress our relationship in that way, you know. He was really focused on some of the guys, and so I don't know, we just never got to that point where I felt like we really knew each other that well enough, and I just didn't see the relationship progressing, unfortunately. And so it's tough. And with John, you know, I think about this a lot, and I think his personality didn't really come out until later. And he's the sweetest guy ever. But unfortunately, at that point, I just had so many other relationships that were so much further along, and I wouldn't want to like lead him on anymore. So yeah, I mean, at that point, it is kind of hard to send people home because that's like you're halfway through the journey at that point. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we saw the dates go on, but like we got to the moment where Austin came to you.
Yeah.
So talk about that moment, because that was a little shocking to me.
Yeah, it was shocking to me too. I wasn't expecting that from Austin, and I completely respected his decision and respected where he was coming from, you know. And at that point, I did have other relationships that were progressing further along, and I felt bad that I wasn't maybe doing everything that I could to be fully open to everybody and put my emotions and put my efforts into everybody equally. So honestly, like I had felt bad that I wasn't able to, give him that attention that maybe was needed. And so I understood why he made the decision he needed to make.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
He'll be fun to chat with. We'll see him again, I'm sure. And then the same, you know, let's just fast forward to the next rose ceremony, because we had 2 for the price of 1 in an episode, and saying goodbye to Dylan. So talk to me about him, just as a guy. Like, at first I was kind of like, I could maybe see them, but I think it may be the same thing where it just didn't progress enough.
Yeah, I mean, I loved how much we had in common from, you know, both being in medicine and kind of having parents of immigrants. So it's just, we had so much in common, and I loved every conversation that we had, but unfortunately it just didn't progress with the speed that I wanted it to progress as in comparison to the others. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's talk about just so far this season, now that you lived it, but now in watching it back, talk to me about kind of how it's been for you, just seeing all the things that you hadn't been in the room for.
It's definitely interesting. It makes things really fun for me. I love a little bit of tea. So I'm like, who's fighting with who? Who's gossiping? Who's doing this and that? So I love it. I mean, it's nice to see some of these personalities when they're just with the guys. And it is also kind of shocking how some of these guys act differently with just the boys versus with me. So very, very interesting and a fun time to watch that.
Would one of those men be Sam M? I have feelings about him. I will not lie.
Yeah, I mean, it is interesting to see how he is a little bit different with the boys versus with me, for sure.
One thing, I mean, in going back to him, one thing that I noticed when you guys had your one-on-one in the dinner is when he was talking about expressing himself with words, it doesn't come easy. And I was like, yeah, bro, we get it. Like, I absolutely get that. And I feel like that's why he always goes to the physical.
Yeah.
And yes, there was that connection, but it's like, do you feel like with him that you are learning enough about him to kind of further things?
I think at that moment and during the date, you know, I was excited that he was opening up a little bit more, and I saw, you know, a glimpse of hope in that. You know, I knew that our connection was very physical, and I wanted to see a little bit more, so I was happy to get that little inch of, you know, who he really was. So I was excited about that day.
But let's talk about some of the other connections, because I do feel like some of these guys, like, talk to me about Marcus, first off.
Mm-hmm.
He was the first one to come out of the limos, and it feels like there is something just genuine that pulls you to him. So talk about him for me for a minute.
Yeah, he is just a very sweet, sweet soul, and I think he's somebody who struggles to open up. And so I was very drawn to him in the sense that it just felt like he was holding something back, and I know what it's like to hold something back so much because out of fear of just not being accepted. And so I felt really drawn to him in the sense that I could relate to that.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like you have the same kind of pull with Devin, where it's one of those things where I was like, okay, I get it. You might, at first glance, you might go, well, maybe, I don't know. But when you guys talk, it just feels like there's this ease about you, about the two of you. So talk about him and your connections.
Yeah, I was really, really surprised to see Devin come out of his shell a little bit more on our one-on-one date in terms of vulnerability. I think before that, I had kind of seen him as this goofy guy, and we had so much fun together, and we have this banter, but I wasn't sure if we could connect on that emotional level. And it was really nice to see him kind of step up to that on our one-on-one date the whole day in the beginning with talking all about our families and traditions, and then at night being able to connect on, the way we both grew up, different but kind of similar, and to kind of both have that emotional depth and vulnerability with each other. It was nice and it was easy. Yeah,
absolutely. Talk to me about just kind of what we have coming ahead. Right now, it seems like we are 5 episodes in. We are a few episodes in, and we've had some drama.
Yeah.
So talk to me just broadly. I know we can't get specific unless you'd really like to. Just talk to me broadly about just some of the things that we have to look forward to. Like what do we have ahead?
Yeah, I don't know how much more drama between the boys there are. I'm just surprised every week when I see it, and I love seeing it. But I will say, like, speaking for me in a lot of these relationships, I think this is kind of the turning point where things get really emotional. There's, on both sides of the party, people are getting more and more invested emotionally. So I think this is where a lot of the vulnerability is going to come out.
On both ends, right?
Yes, both ends.
Gina, when you wrapped that interview, what's the first thing you were thinking?
I love Jenn. I love her. I just think she's the sweetest thing. And, I feel very protective of her for some reason. I feel like, I just want to make sure that whoever she picks is going to treat her like the queen that she is. I do feel like, I'm hoping that we see that. I like that she is like the maturity and the growth that we have seen from her. Those moments early on in this episode broke my heart when she was talking about feeling worthless and, like they're going to see this.
I want to just really be honest about how I'm feeling. I just think you tell me all the time, like how amazing I'm doing and all this stuff. And I just don't feel it sometimes.
I have a really hard time being vulnerable, and you don't just show the happy, positive, whatever. It's brave to be able to do that.
Thank you.
I just want you to know we are all choosing you. And I think that no matter who you end up with, they're going to put in 110% of what they have to choose you.
Thank you.
That all, I was teary. It just, brings up it always brings up a lot of feelings. We all have insecurities. But I think that after talking to her and seeing kind of what's happened and how things have gone, Jenn is really growing into her own. And I love that for her. And I hope that the journey from here on out is amazing. And we'll see her again at Men Tell All, which I'm excited to get to. And we'll see. But she's just great. And I just want her to be happy at the end of this.
I think we all do. We just want what's best for her. And we've seen her now for the past season of The Bachelor and now The Bachelorette. So I think we're all getting a little attached to her, especially you, Ryan.
My attachment was from night 1 of Joey's season. Let's be honest about that. And we got one heck of a teaser trailer.
Wow.
And it wasn't next week on The Bachelor.
No.
Still to come this season
I know.
on The Bachelorette. And they dropped this whole bevy of, crazy. And we got Marcus tearing up saying he's not feeling it. You got Devin saying that I love you. It was in Jenn saying at one point, I can't let you propose to me.
It was a lot.
It was.
The Marcus thing was the biggest thing.
I agree with that. Gina, I thought Marcus saying
where's that going to go?
Yeah. And then she's breaking down like, I'm tired of putting in all this energy for these guys who can't reciprocate, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. the Marcus moment gave me Daisy vibes from last season.
Yes.
Where, you know, she was saying like, oh, I'm not fully there yet. And then literally in the season we saw, you know, those were all the teases. But then when we saw the episode, she was saying, oh yeah, but I can, you know, and then like literally 5 minutes later, she was saying, I do care.
Is there any chance it's out of context, do you think, Gina?
I mean, look, who knows? I'm sure there are a lot of things that are out of context in this tease, and we'll find out as we go along. As we've talked about, you can't put words into someone's mouth that they didn't say. So, you know, maybe, you know, again, maybe he's not there yet next week. Maybe he's not there yet in 2 weeks, but you know, maybe further down the line he is. We don't know. We'll see.
Well, you know how I know this is going to be a wild final few weeks of The Bachelorette? Because the host of the show told us that himself. We have a one-on-one with Jesse Palmer coming your way later this week on Playing the Field, where he dishes on all kind of good stuff. What we've seen so far, the Golden Bachelorette, Bachelor in Paradise, and what is still yet to come in Jenn's journey to find love. And he drops some very intriguing nuggets, teases. I forget what word you used, Gina, but we were all very intrigued by what is still yet to come. And that comes your way later this week on Playing the Field. And speaking of our favorite podcast, Jenn, you want to remind the folks at home to do what?
To follow us so that they can be subscribed and get the latest episodes of Playing the Field, and especially that Jesse interview later this week. Right when it drops.
We are looking forward to that. Stay here for all of your favorite Bachelor news, notes, insider info, and exclusive interviews right here on Playing the Field. For Gina and Jenn, I'm Ryan. We'll see you next time on your favorite Bachelor podcast.